of the application.
Second. So I think there's a couple things, Erica, that we may want to just note for those who may not have been on the earlier discussion, and that's simply, you know, if your system is not in the PTS right now and you want to apply for the Clean Peak Energy Standard, you do need to go ahead and register your system with the PTS, and then the SQA application is submitted through the PTS, which we'll show here in a minute. But I just wanted to kind of stress that for some folks who weren't on the line earlier. And I think we should run through this as well, Erica. So just kind of the overall process here is that the GIS account holder must register all systems, generation units, and batteries with NEPOOL GIS as a CPS system. Okay, so you need to go ahead and complete that process before you can go through and submit your SQA. And we'll have a presentation at the end of our webinar today from NEPOOL GIS going through that. All generation units must have a DOER RPS ID. One thing to note here is that the PTS for energy storage systems, the PTS is going to be generating that DOER ID. So that's going to come right within the platform itself. But those other systems, you do have to have the DOER RPS ID in place. And then you come into the new PTS. All right, so you either register a new system or you select an existing system and you go through the SQA process for those systems. Once your system is submitted, DOER goes ahead and will review and approve all CPS SQAs. Mass CEC will complete an overall compliance check before that SQA is registered within the system. Okay, and then once the system is registered, then it's able to intake or report the production through the Clean Peak, and then we will be reporting that to NEPOOL for the generation of the CPECs. So, Eric, anything that you want to add to the overall process here?
No, I think for any aggregators that are on would understand this process, but for those who are new, it's just understanding that, in short, NEPOOL GIS will give you a CPEC ID. You know, Mass CEC, if your system is not energy storage system, I'm sorry, DOER will provide you with an RPS ID for all generation units, mostly within the class 1, class 2 type categories. And then in terms of that system being in the PTS, and then it could be imported to receive approval to participate with the SQA. And so, like the SREC programs, DOER has to approve you because they are the administrator for this Clean Peak program. However, once you're approved, Mass CEC as a third-party verifier will have to make sure that your system port to our platform, your meter, you know, is in compliance. And so we'll be checking for that type of information. And once your system can report to our platform, then you'll be able to report, and we can then take that production and report quarterly to the NEPOOL GIS for your CPEC certificate. So overall, in short, that's the process. It's similar to what it is now for the other programs. But again, we're approving you to report for compliance in the Mass CEC side.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great, thanks, Erica. So I will be quick on this. We talked about before on how to go ahead and register a new system with the PTS. It is wizard based. There's 5 steps to registering a system. So there's site information, contact information, equipment, installation, and documentations and certifications. So I'm not going to walk through that entire process other than to note that, you know, it is step-by-step process. It's guided, it walks you through it. And we talked about there is a dashboard that summarizes the status of those systems. So we can look at that again quickly, but what I really want to focus on is, so once your new system is registered, or if you have an existing system in the PTS that you want to apply for the Clean Peak standard, you would go ahead and complete the SQA application. Okay, and so again, we'll do a demo of this in just a few minutes, but I want to go over, there are different, you create an application, okay? And we start off with what we call the application details page. That's where you can go ahead, give your name, give your application a name. You have the ability to add resources to your application. You can add more than one resource at a time. And then within the application itself, we have application statuses and application requirements throughout the process. So again, it's a guided process. There are requirements that need to be met. As you meet those requirements, the system will automatically update in terms of some of the notices. They'll turn from red to green, for example. But again, we'll go ahead and show that here in just a second. So I'm going to hop out of the PowerPoint and let's go back to the PTS. Okay. So let me go ahead and log out. I'm going to come back in as an existing user. And so for those of you who missed the earlier session, we do have a left panel navigation here that lets you access different components of the system. So viewing system information, production data. We talked about PTS registration. So if you were registering a new system, you would come in, click register a new system, and you would walk through this process. I'm not going to go through it again because we did cover that pretty substantially previously. But again, you go through this 5-step process, you answer a number of questions, and then you submit that system for review by Mass CEC. Once that system is approved, then you would be able to come in and complete an SQA application. Okay, so I'm going to come in, I'm going to click on SQA application. The first time that you come in, this grid it's not going to be populated. Okay, so this is going to show you your specific applications that you've either started or submitted, or it'll show you the complete history. Okay, so as you you know, if you're submitting, I don't know, 10, 15, or however many applications, this grid will get populated with those applications. You'll be able to see the current status. Okay, so again, it's going to be it'll be kind of blank when you first come in, and you're going to come in here and say new CPS application. Okay, and what this does is this launches that application details page that I was talking about. Okay, and the first thing that I need to do is give my application a name. Okay, so Dale Demo 727. Okay, go ahead and hit save. And so there's different components to it. So we have the, the application name. Over here, you see in the middle, these are our participating resources. By default, we don't have any resources or technology types added to this application yet. We're going to go ahead and do that in just a minute. You also see here on the bottom section, you have a documentation requirements. So as part of the SQA registration process, there are certain documentation requirements depending on the resource type that you select. Okay, and then over here on the right-hand side, we have the application status. Okay, and we have a communication log in here that we can go ahead and add notes. The DOER is there after you submit your application, and they're reviewing it. They can go ahead and send you emails and notes back. Okay, and that's going to show up in this communication log right over here. Okay, so the first time you come in, you're going to come in and you're going to say add a new resource. Okay, so these are the resource types defined within the CPS program. So you have your existing class 1, class 2, so anything that was in place before January 1st, 2019. So new class 1, anything after January 1st, 2019. You've got your qualified energy storage systems, and then your demand response types. Okay. not going to go into a whole lot of information on this. There's plenty of documentation on that clarifies what a resource type is. But so for now, I'm going to come in and say a new class 1. All right. And what we do is we load a grid very similar to the grid that's used throughout the entire application from a consistency standpoint. Okay. So this is only going to show my class 1 systems. Okay. So any systems that came on before January 1st, 2019, they're not going to show up in this list. Okay. Now, vice versa, if I had selected an existing class 1, that would only show those systems. Okay, so we try to manage that for the user and keep it as easy as possible. You do have the ability to filter this grid down. So if you maybe manage 10,000 systems and you want to quickly manage it, or excuse me, filter it down by the technology type, you can go ahead and do that. We can look at your role on the system and at the program level as well. Okay, and then I think Erica had noted it previously. If, for example, you see a system, or excuse me, you don't see a system in here, so you don't have a current role on that system, you do have the ability, if you know the system ID, the in-service date, the owner's last name, the system size, and the city, you can go ahead and put this information in. And if you know all of those pieces of information, will allow you to select that system. So it's a security measure that allows you to locate another system that you currently not a reporter for example. Okay, did I get that right, Erica?
Sorry. Yes,
No,
you did.
yep, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So you can see here, we put in some dummy systems for the purposes of this demonstration. So I'm gonna go ahead and select one of these systems. All right, and so again, so I've just added a new class 1 resource, and we have, there's 4 steps to this process. Okay, this is primarily it's a read-only. You're verifying that the system information that you've selected, okay, so the system information that's in the current PTS is accurate for this system. Okay, so we have a little toggle box right here. If it's not, you would note that. All change requests are handled as part of the PTS. So you would go back to the view system information and you would update this information if something is incorrect. So those are 2 different workflows in terms of submitting an application versus correcting. The one thing that you would need to put in on this screen is the NEPOOL GIS, the CPEC ID that you would have gotten from NEPOOL GIS. So that's something that you do enter in on this system information screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that it is correct for the purposes of our demo. We're just going to put in a dummy ID here. So then again, I can go through, I can use the navigation on the bottom. I have the meeting controls are preventing me from going back and forth correctly here. But so you can either click on the tabs on the top, or you can use the navigation on the bottom to return to the previous screen or advance to the next screen. Okay, so again, you're just verifying the information that's in here. Okay, so you can go ahead, you're seeing the information that we have. All right, so I've got 1 inverter, it's a SunPower, and here's the model number. Okay, so if this information was incorrect, you would go correct it in the PTS and then come back in here. Okay, contact information. So we show you the current system owner, the GIS account holder, the reporter, the rec owner, the installer. Okay, if this information is not correct, you have the ability to come in here and update it. Okay, so this is important because we do recognize that maybe the reporter is going to be, for the system, is going to be different for the CPS program. Okay, so you do have the ability to come in here and update the information if necessary. All right, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's correct. One thing to note is if on any of these, if you say that the equipment is incorrect or the system information is incorrect, you're not actually able to submit the the application. So you have to correct that information first, okay? So system information, equipment, contacts, and then we have a tab here for the multipliers, okay? You know, is this resource eligible for the resilience multiplier, yes or no? This is really on the, you know, the person submitting the application to read the requirements that are associated with the resource multiplier and understand and check off that, yes, you know, it's eligible. Okay, so we have the same question for the distribution circuit multiplier, and then you have the, you would go ahead and put in the distribution circuit number as well here, okay? You do notice on the right-hand side is you have your resource requirements. So this is telling me that because I selected a, you know, a new class 1, I need to upload a system layout or one-line diagram. I need to upload my inverter data sheet. I need to upload my interagency service agreement, my ISA, okay? And I need to go ahead and ensure that my reporter is, you know, DAS certified, okay? So certified to report, okay? So then if I enter in all of this information correctly, I could go ahead and finish. So I'm finished because that was just, and I apologize, that was just for one resource, okay? You have the ability to come back in here and add in additional systems, okay, additional resources, okay? So you don't have to, it's not a one-to-one. You could load this up with, you know, as many resources as applicable for the application itself. So I just wanted to note that, okay? You have the ability here, now once you've added a resource, you could come in, you could edit it, you could go ahead and, you know, delete one of these, okay? And then you do have some statuses that are in here. So this is telling me that my reporter, which was myself when I selected it, you know, I'm not a DAS certified. So you'd have to update that information. And then, so once I've added my resources, again, there are a number of documentation requirements that are needed here. So I have the ability to click on upload documents, okay? Let's see what I have handy here. I apologize. Let's see. Just go down to SEC. Okay. So I've identified, and I apologize, but I just grabbed you know, I think it was Mass CEC's logo, but you have the ability to come in here, upload multiple documents. You can go ahead and, you know, tag, you know, identify that this document is a system layout, okay? And then, so you could do one file, you could do multiple files in here, then you would click this box, upload your files, okay? And then what that'll do is allow you to come in here, and these are the, again, the different document types. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and remove one of these, okay? Just so I don't have duplicates. So I can go ahead and select this. Okay, so here's the file that I just uploaded, the CEC PNG file, okay? So I can go ahead and assign that to the selected resource. All right, and for demonstration purposes. Okay, now if you see what happened over here, there was, we have a status field in here that just tracks whether or not, you know, you've satisfied this document requirement. Now, you wouldn't use the same file for, you know, for every single one. I just did that for the purposes of demoing to you today, but you do need to upload the, you know, the appropriate files that are in here. And then again, I'd have to come back in here and fix, I'd have to select a DAS provider from the list. So if I hit edit, go back to my contacts, come in. Okay, so we do have a drop-down menu for the DAS providers. Okay, so we come in here. Geez, I hope you're okay, Erica, if I show this just for demonstration purposes, but you would select the DAS provider and the users that we have connected for the system. And then if I come back to my application now, we should see, there we go. We do see that I have, I've satisfied all of the requirements associated with the application. I could add a note, you know, so maybe I want to communicate something to DOER as part of my submittal. I can go ahead and do that. And then I would go ahead and submit the application, and then that would show up in the grid on the first screen, and now it would show that my system has been submitted, okay? This would trigger our entire workflow where DOER would then review all the information that I submitted as part of my application. They would review it, either take some action on it, maybe they request more information from the applicant, or approve it. And then that would move along in the SQA process, where once DOER reviews and approves, then it goes to Mass DEC for that compliance review before you'd be able to be registered for the program.